Hey guys, good morning. Happy Monday. We made it through our first week last week of distance learning and we're back again for another week. I miss you all, but I hope that you are all healthy and well and staying engaged and able to get some work done. I have a book to read to you all today, but first I noticed our number of the day is a really big number, so I thought I would go over it with you all in case you wanted some help. So here's our number of the day. I'm going to say it with you and just talk about place value for a minute, and then hopefully you all can try and figure out how to write it if you want to. So the number of the day is 108 million, because there's no 10 millions. 108,675,309. So we have our unit family, our simple family. It's these three numbers. We've got a unit, 10, and 100. Remember, every family has one of those. So here's our thousands family with its unit, it's 10, and it's 100. And here's our million family with its unit, it's 10, and it's 100. So we have a million family, a thousand family, and a simple family in this number. So we start by reading the largest number, go all the way to the units. We look at the unit number to tell if it's odd or even. And the commas are what separate the families. Okay? So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to go over it with you another time. Now, before we had to break and go home, we were talking about South America. And some of you had started doing some research, and we were looking at some different stories. So I wanted to continue that because several of your Map Champ worksheets this week have to do with South America. So I'm going to be reading you this book, Where is Machu Picchu? And it is by Stine. And I'll read a couple of chapters every day and post it on YouTube. And you can listen and you can write down facts that you think are interesting and do your own research. I apologize if there's some background noise. I'm trying to do this in my house, and there's a lot of my kids or water running or different things, so I'll try to read it clearly. First, where is Machu Picchu? Flocks of green parrots flew overhead in the jungle. The air was sticky and damp. It was July 24th, 1911. Hiram Bingham and 6 other explorers had been trekking through the jungles of South America for days. The 35-year-old professor from Yale University was on a quest. He was searching for the place where an ancient people called the Incas had once lived and then died out 400 years before. Ever since childhood, Hiram had dreamed of a life of adventure. Now he was finally living in it. He was leading an expedition that included a doctor, a naturalist, and a geographer. They were in Peru, where Hiram hoped to discover the ruins of the lost Inca city of Vilcabamba. He wanted to be famous. The beauty of the jungle was breathtaking. Orchids bloomed everywhere. Snow-capped mountains towered above. Hiram and his fellow explorers followed a path along a river. They passed waterfalls and tree-sized ferns. Hiram later wrote, "I know of no place in the world which can compare with it." But after 5 days, some in the group were tired. They didn't want to keep going. The journey had been hard. They were riding mules through the jungle that was overgrown with vines and buzzing with insects. Poisonous snakes slithered about. They decided to stay behind the camp to wash their clothes or hunt for butterflies. So on the 6th morning of the trek, Hiram set out with just one companion, a sergeant from the Peruvian government. They were led by a local guide named Melchor Ortega. Melchor had said that if they crossed the river and climbed 2,000 feet up the mountain, they would find some ruins, ancient buildings that had fallen apart. Could this be the magnificent city Hiram Bingham was looking for? Hiram sort of doubted it. He had a rule for himself. Whenever someone told him fabulous stories of lost treasure, Hiram reminded himself that it might just be a story. Still, he was curious. He was also determined and energetic, so he followed Melkor across a shaky bridge over rushing water. The bridge was made of only a few logs tied with vines. Melkor and the sergeant walked across the wobbly bridge, but Hiram felt safer crawling on his hands and knees. Then he followed the guide up a steep trail for more than an hour, part of the way on all fours. By the time they reached the ridge of the mountain, Hiram and the sergeant were exhausted, and all they saw were some huts and stone walls. A few local people seemed to be living there. They offered Hiram water and cooked sweet potatoes. The view from this spot was magnificent. Hiram could see down to the river valley far below. He could also see up to the snowy mountains high overhead. It was like living in the clouds. But had he come all this way for nothing more than an incredible view of nature? Picture of him on the bridge. No, as soon as he walked a little further and rounded a corner, he came upon something incredible. There was an entire city of ruins. Hiram had not found Vilcabamba. Instead, he had found something much better. The hidden city of Machu Picchu. It was an Inca city that no one in the outside world even knew existed. Here's the map. Shows Machu Picchu is located in Peru. Chapter 1. That was just the introduction. Who were the Incas? Many hundreds of years ago, long before the time of European explorers, native peoples lived in tribes in both North and South America. They hunted fish, grew crops, and sometimes fought. Their lives were simple. But in the 1400s, in one area of South America, a tribe called the Incas did much more than that. The king ruled over a vast empire. Its capital was a city called Cusco. There were roads and stone houses. The Incas created wonderful art. They learned how to work with metals like copper and bronze and to make gold and silver jewelry. They wove special fabrics with fancy designs for the royalty. They studied the sky to learn about the sun, moon, and stars. Although they didn't have written language, the Incas kept records of everything. They used a system of knots tied on strings. These were called quipus. With the quipus, they could keep track of how much land they owned. They also kept count of how many people lived in the Inca world. It's a drawing of what their quipus looked like. You could make one of those to tell us your own story. Where is Cusco? Cusco is located high in the Andes Mountains of Peru. It is over 11,000 feet, more than 2 miles above sea level. Even so, the mountaintops still tower above it. Cusco was the right place for the Inca capital city because the land was flat, with mountains on all sides. The mountains protected the capital from invaders. Enemy armies would have to cross rugged terrain to reach the city. Cusco is about 700 miles from Lima, the present-day capital of Peru. Today, about 350,000 people live in Cusco. The Incas believed that they were a special people, chosen by their gods. They worshipped the sun and built stone temples for religious ceremonies. The temple in Cusco was an incredible building, decorated with real gold. It was made of stones cut so perfectly that they fitted tightly together without cement or mortar. Inside the temple was a golden statue of the sun god named Inti. He was shown as a boy with snakes and lions coming out of his body. Outside there were life-size animals statues made of gold, monkeys, llamas, guinea pigs, jaguars, birds, and butterflies, all gold. There was even a garden filled with life-size gold corn plants. There were also niches inside the temples. Niches are indented spaces in a wall that usually hold a statue. But the Incas didn't put statues in niches. On special occasions, they put mummies in them instead. Whenever an Inca king died, his body was mummified. It was treated in a way that would stop it from rotting. The mummy was cared for as if it were still alive. People offered food to the mummy. They presented gifts to the mummy and dressed it in the best clothing with gold and feathers. The mummy could then be carried around from place to place wherever the new king went. Servants were always nearby to keep flies away from the mummy. During ceremonies and rituals, the mummies were placed in the temple niches, a place of honor. Picture of a mummy. Kind of crazy. The Incas hadn't always been a strong nation. In the early 1400s, the tribe was small and weak, but their city of Cusco had great weather and good soil for growing crops. It made living there easy. A rival tribe called the Chancas wanted to live there too, so the Chancas began marching toward Cusco, planning to attack. The Inca king was old and afraid. He ran away and hid. But his son was smart and strong. He quickly made friends with other small tribes and put together an army. They marched out to fight the Chancas before the Chancas could attack them. The Incas fought a bloody battle with spiked wooden clubs. They won. I'll show you the picture. They won by capturing the mummy of the Chanca king. The Chancas thought they had no power without their mummy king, so they gave up. Then the Inca's king's son became the new king. The young king chose a new name for himself, Pachacuti. It meant earth shaker, or someone who turns the world upside down. And he turned the world upside down by defeating the Chancas. Pretty soon, he would shake and shape the Inca world even more. Quechua is the language of the Incas. The ancient Incan people spoke that language, Quechua. It is still spoken today by millions of people living in Peru and other parts of South America. In the Quechua language, the word Inca meant king. Over the years, though, outsiders began to use the word Inca to mean all the people who were part of the ancient society. So that is our read aloud for today, and I will try to do another chapter or two tomorrow. You are welcome to do any follow-up research on that. You can build a model of the Incan cities, maybe to try and do some. You could even do a Lego model of how they put their houses together, their temples together without brick and mortar. Maybe do one of the masks, or you could do one of the special belts that they used to track time with the knots. You could use some of your yarn from your finger knitting that you brought home. Take pictures, show me what you do, tell me what you learn in your other research on South America, and I will sort of see you again tomorrow with our next part of our story. Bye!